I'm Don. It's late. I'm up. Hi. Welcome to what will most assuredly be my least viewed episode of all time of this show. So if you've already watched this far in, congratulations. Hitting click or hitting view is the first step in the battle. So I appreciate you being here with me tonight. The reason I think this will be the most or least viewed, least successful live stream I've done, not only is because of this stammering up front that makes no sense, but this movie is incredibly underwatched. It's a documentary about Kubrick's The Shining, but it's been out for about 10 years. Most people haven't seen it. The ones who have seen it have real strong opinions about it, and some people actually hate it. So the actual audience for this movie is incredibly small, but I dig it for a lot of reasons. And not only is the content we'll be talking about tonight very unpopular or uninteresting to some people, but I'm also watching this at 1 a.m. on Monday morning, in between Sunday and Monday. What, in my opinion, as a lifelong night owl, is that this is the deadest time of all times, right? Like some people say Halloween or whatever. It's like, no, Sunday night before Monday morning comes and everybody's tired from the weekend and they have to get up in the morning and nobody's awake. It's as dead can be. Like if you ever want to go out and be alone in the world or film a zombie movie or whatever, early Monday morning is the time to do it. So anyways, since no one's going to be watching this with me and this is going to be a solo mission, I'm going to watch Room 237. Like I said, it's a documentary about Kubrick's The Shining, as well as all of Kubrick's films in general. A lot of people are big Kubrick enthusiasts. Other people don't like the man or don't know who he is. One of the beautiful things about him is he's like a recognized genius. People everywhere like just sort of accept the man is like super uber smart, right? Sorry, let me adjust the microphone there. I'm yelling at you. So because of his super genius status, people everywhere have this opinion like that anything could be in his movies. Like it's very believable that whatever is hidden in the subtext or the themes and stuff because Kubrick's a genius. So because of that, it'd be like if the weirdest person you know, somebody told you they did something weird, you're like, yeah, that sounds about right. So because Kubrick's a genius, the idea that anything could be hidden in his films is very believable. But this movie to me is more a movie about art interpretation. So we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about this movie. It's a perfect companion piece to The Shining. If you haven't seen The Shining, for sure watch that before you watch this. However, I don't think you need to even see Room 237 to have to listen to this commentary. The movie itself is pretty self-explanatory as it goes along. We'll talk about it, but it's just a breakdown of Kubrick's films and the weird things hidden in there and what this means and what that means, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to be watching this on AMC Plus. Oh boy, it was like solving a video game riddle to find that damn thing on AMC Plus. It was on Tubi forever, and I had it on my queue forever, and that's where I got the idea to watch this with you guys because I dig this movie. But finding it on AMC Plus was a real trick. You have to go to the main page, go down a couple sections, find the individual dots where they break down like Shudder, AMC Plus. This is an IFC Essentials. So you go to the IFC Essentials and then kind of snoop around in there and you can go to the A through Z and find Room 237. Freaking ridiculous. Hey, what do we got here? Mr. Bones says, yo, you going to be free Tuesday night or what, bro? I don't know. What you talking about watching, dog? By the way, since I'm already started the comment section, welcome, Mr. Bones. First of all, that was Mr. Bones. Sometimes I'm on the boneyard with him, or apparently I might be more often now. I was last week, and we watched Planet Terror. So perhaps I'll, let's see. Oh, God damn it, I walked into it. I asked what we're going to be watching, and Mr. Bones told me, D's nuts. I should have known. You know what I mean? Like, I was asking for that one. That's my own fault. While we're talking about the comment section, at the top of the comment section is pinned a link to vote for the Horror Cat Dad for Horror YouTuber of the Month on Jinja Ninja's page. The current reigning champion is Jinja Ninja. And our buddy Larry, the Horror Cat Dad, frequent collaborator, friend of the channel, comrade, lover of felines. Larry the Man is nominated for horror YouTuber of the month. So I was in October. I felt it's a very prestigious time to win the horror YouTuber of the month. So I kind of just mic dropped and walk away from that. But my boy's nominated. We got to get him to win it. He's already been YouTube Entertainer of the Month. So we're going to collect all the stones for the Infinity Gauntlet and just control this pitch. Mr. Bones is laughing. Good. As I was saying, we're going to watch this on IFC Plus or AMC Plus under IFC Essentials. Jesus, see what I mean? It's too complicated for anyone's own good. So I put a link in the description. So I don't know. I scroll down. It should work. I don't know if it will or not. We'll see. But otherwise, yeah, you can find it on the AMC Plus channel, but you have to go into IFC Essentials, etc. Whatever. Let's see here. Who's he up against? The main person I feel bad helping Larry campaign against is our friend Marty from Trashed Picture Show. Marty's a really cool guy. He's super smart, funny, interesting dude. Got a cool accent. If you're into geek talk and nerd talk and cool, aliens, and he's an aliens expert. He's damn good. So if you're into cool stuff, Marty's a fun guy to follow. But I don't do a weekly show with Marty either, so I got to represent my boy. So I recommend him. And I don't know. I've done a lot of brain damage to myself at various points in my life, so trying to remember the other nominees is incredibly hard. But let's see here. Bone says he knows Marty. He will kick your arse. Yeah, he might. So this is an hour and 43 minutes, I believe. Hour and 43. So it's currently 1:07. So if I press play on this BIH right now, it'll hopefully wrap up around 3 a.m. for me, 4 a.m. for the East Coast folks. But as I say, I don't expect many people to be here for this one. So Bones and whoever the other folks watching are, I thank you so much for being here. You're going above and beyond on this one. So I'm going to press play on room 237. 1, 2, 3, now. Did you work? Oh, wait a minute. No, I didn't hit resume. There we go. Oh, sorry. Okay, now. Jeez, see, it's all complicated. It's all very complicated. This movie came out in 2012. I remember seeing it Netflix, I think maybe. People told me to check it out. IFC Films. People told me to check it out because it's so weird. And then I asked other people, have you seen this movie about The Shining? And some folks were very, I never noticed this disclaimer. Neither this film nor any view or opinion expressed in it, nor the context in which the film footage and images are used is improved, endorsed in any way by Stanley Kubrick. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, this is a whole breakdown of like Stanley Kubrick's entire film history. So we'll talk a lot about Kubrick tonight or this morning, whatever. But we'll also talk a lot about The Shining. So if you're a big fan of The Shining, there's going to be a lot of Shining talk. But the main thing about this movie to me is film interpretation, art interpretation. The reason why I love movies more than I love any other art form is because it's all the art forms. And because you can combine all the art forms, and movies came along after, thousands of years of human art, everything that we learned about filling a frame and everything about music cues and everything about fashion and color and all this stuff that we learned over humanity's time, we can put it all into movies. Everything we learned with opera and theater and all of the arts are going on at once in a movie. So Kubrick, the genius, knew that, and he knew to just stuff all throughout there. Stuff. Yeah. Don't be stuffing your stuff into stuff. So because of that, the idea that anything is going on in a Kubrick film is incredibly believable. Some of the ideas expressed in this movie are just out there, but then some of them kind of make sense. You sort of feel them. But I don't have captions on. There we go. That's better. Be nice if I knew what was going on. Where the heck are we at with the chat? What the fook he's doing, Marty? Nate is here. Pat Master, welcome, Nate. I love me some Nate. Nate's always got a positive energy. See what I mean right here? Bam! He hits me with a heart for no reason. Yeah, Nate, you get a sloppy hand heart. That's what you get. I'll dust one off for you. And then Mr. Bone says, pat, 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 pat. So thank you, Nate, for joining us. That's awesome. So yeah, the movie is a breakdown of Kubrick's work. We start off with them talking about Eyes Wide Shut. And room 237, being an inquiry into The Shining in 9 parts. So wow. The film itself just shows a lot of clips of Kubrick's films, various ones he's done. Right now, they're really leaning heavily into Eyes Wide Shut, but they bring in different people to interview, like these different professors and folks who've written books on The Shining, or like famous film critics and stuff. And they explain what they see when they watch The Shining, and they tell like hidden messages. Like, if you look here, you can see stuff in the clouds, or when this scene is happening, what Kubrick is trying to say is this. So, oh, hey, look at this. Our friend Liv is here. Hey there, I was just about to go to bed. I wanted to stop in and say hi. Well, thank you, Liv. I appreciate it. You were a highlight of last night's chat. For those of you who didn't join us last night, we watched Big Trouble in Little China. So that's currently, if you go to the homepage on my YouTube, you can find that one, or go into the live tab on my YouTube homepage and you'll find all that. So there, free plug for me. Thank you. Speaking of free clubs, be sure to vote for Horror Cat Dad. The link to vote for Larry and the other nominees is at the top, pinned to the top of the chat. So folks are welcoming Liv. Yes, Liv, well, thank you. Yeah, so this movie to me is about art interpretation. When I took a humanities class once in high school, and it kind of blew my mind, like all that was going on beyond what the traditional art I was, used to. It talked more about, subtext and themes and what different artists were trying to convey and the different things they said and stuff. So it sort of opened up a new world of interpretation to me about art. Yeah, they're already getting deep into the Shining crap. So that's one of the things I talk about on this channel a lot. Like a lot of folks do this thing where we sit around and watch movies with you guys and talk with our friends about it. But I think one of the few differences I do is I get deep into the woods on filmmaking, the dialogue, the screen structure, or the story structure, the way the different shots are developed, what the director is trying to say. And sometimes when I talk about themes and subtext, it sounds like crazy talk. So this movie sort of validates the idea of art interpretation, that when you create art and you put it out into the world, it's almost like a child. It goes out away from you. It grows up eventually and has to go out and speak for itself. You can't go stand next to your child everywhere and explain, oh, here's what he meant, right? So when you create art, it needs to be able to speak for itself. It's a thing you put out there for others to interpret. And the more the message you want to convey, the more accurate the art needs to be, the more broad you are with what you want to say. Here's some art for you. So for those of you listening, I just held up a pen and paper. Well, you can say, well, what does that mean? Is he saying that the written word is very important? Is he saying that communication is key to everything? Without pen and paper, how would people have ever conveyed their ideas and shared them? Maybe he just grabbed the nearest thing that was next to him and made it into art. That's the beauty of art interpretation. When something is put out there as art, the viewer then gets to figure out, well, what does that mean to me? And it can't be wrong, So in this movie, these people are sort of fascinating because they interpret what they see in The Shining. The carpet means this, the cans on the shelves in the storeroom mean this, the way this character was portrayed means this, et cetera, right? But some of them are so sure about their ideas that they just can't, they've come up with these wild themes of I don't know, we'll talk about it. At one point, this one guy claims that there's all this subtext of sex going on when Jack Nicholson gets hired for the job. There's a boner and stuff in the screen. I don't know. It's wild. What's going on with the chat here? I see all sorts of folks. Echo Cero is here. Hello. I look at film as art. I took a film as art class in college. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, see, Liv knows. A lot of times when you make a film, you have months to write it. So when the writer puts stuff in there, they're going to have, thoughts, opinions, messages about what's going on in our time or things they want to talk about in previous times, whatever, right? So the writer gets a chance to contribute art. And then the director comes on and the cinematographer comes on and the casting director and all the actors, and everybody's got their own piece that they're doing. The lighting department, the costume department, the set department. Each one has to figure out, well, what can I do to contribute to each shot? That's why really bad, low-budget movies are often, unless I'm cracking on them, I don't like to watch them as much because it gets me frustrated that there's not enough money or time to pour into that much love and affection into each shot. as where Kubrick will like spend a day just getting one shot right because he needs it to be a perfect way. Yeah, here's the part where they talk about where Jack Nicholson goes and interviews for the job, and the boss stands up, and the way he stands up, there's like a paper tray by his penis, and it like makes it look like he's excited to see Jack Nicholson. Anyways, those of you in the chat and those of you watching in the commentary, let me know if you've ever seen this movie. Like I say, I think this is incredibly underwatched, and it's the first documentary I've ever done on this channel. My three favorite films are genres are horror, crime drama, and documentary. So this is the first time we've done a documentary together, and mainly because I wanted to talk about. Well, I did a episode on this show about The Shining. So if you're interested in watching The Shining with me instead of me talking about interpretation of The Shining, you can find that in the back catalog. But this one, it because it's all about art interpretation, it helps like validate some of the craziness I say, explaining what I see when I watch these films. You know, sometimes I'll drop some stuff on people and they'll be like, I don't know if I see that, but that's kind of the beauty of art interpretation is it's in the eye of the beholder. Let's see here. Folks are saying hello to one another. And Echo says, half here working on the return of Echo Clown. Oh no, Echo Clown is horrifying. For those of you not familiar with our friend Echo Zero, he has several characters he plays, Gamer Echo and Echo Gamer, sorry, and Echo Clown. And he's got this Kermit the Frog kind of hat. So Echo Frog, Echo Bunny. There's so many Echoes. Get all your Echo trading cards now. Yeah, they're meeting all the people who are going to be dissecting The Shining, and they're talking about their favorite Kubrick films. And this guy's right now explaining how when he saw 2001, it just like blew his mind, and he had to see it over and over again to try to figure out what things meant. Like, for example, in at the beginning of 2001, famous Kubrick symbolism, it starts off with this monolith on a planet. They ape it in a lot of movies. They mimic it in a lot of movies. I think Barbie even had a thing in it. Anyways, there's this big black monolith laying on this ground on Earth, and you see the early cave people, you know, the Neanderthals or whatever, like banging at this black monolith with bones. And eventually one of them bangs off the black monolith, and the bone flies up into the sky, and then we see the stars, and the bone sort of turns into a spaceship, right? So the way I've always interpreted that is that the monolith represents the unknown, you know, the space, us getting up there and finding stuff we don't understand. And the dumb monkeys, the early humans, the cave people, Neanderthals, they're banging at it with a bone. That's a tool, right? That's early, you know, human beings advancing because they're figuring out how to make things and how to, you know, create tools to do what we need to do. So he bangs at the monolith, and when it flies up in the sky, it turns into a bone. That's basically the evolution of humanity and tools, you know, till we get to space. So it's just a few second shot of some monkeys banging on a black box, but it's really this amazing art scene that sort of encapsulates the evolution of mankind to space travel. You know, it took a few seconds, but it was just art. If you've watched The Shining before, you know there's a lot of things in it where it's like, why would they do that? Or that was so weird. Or why is this scene shot like that? Like right now they're showing a shot of the big, huge hall where Jack Nicholson is throwing the ball against the wall. And they're showing like just how the scene is set up and how they pull in on his typewriter to show that he's not working. And the dude narrating right now is explaining how he thinks that the specific typewriter has meaning. And that's part of what upsets people about this movie. Some people get so deep into it that they say some crazy stuff, man. Like some of the interpretations of this movie about, well, I mean, I do agree with a lot of it, that there is hidden subtext about like Native Americans and all that, because that's in Poltergeist, you know, that we ran the Indians off and took over their land. And that's, you know, kind of one of the subtexts of the Overlook and the land that they took to build on it and stuff. But it's a very tiny underground thing, you know. But this movie makes it seem like that's what the movie is about. Oh, let's see here. Echo Muerto. I like him. He's a whiny beach. I've never seen Echo Muerto. Or Muerto. Sorry. Like. Um, oh, I like him. He's a whiny bitch. Yeah. Hmm. Well, anyways, yeah. Well, thanks to you for hanging out in the chat. I appreciate that. Like I say, I expect this to be my least watched episode of all time because of the subject matter and because of the time slot. So all of you here, I appreciate you very much. Yeah, now they're kind of going through a series of montage about different Kubrick films and showing some of his art and the way he frames scenes and how he really enjoys the moving camera, the steady cam, and all that. Um, yeah, this movie came out, like I say, about 10 years ago. And when it came out, folks knew that I liked The Shining. And because this go just breaks down, all these different things that may or may not be hidden in The Shining, it's kind of revelatory, but it's also a bit insane. And that's kind of the charm of art interpretation. It's like what one person gets out of it might be, the only person who sees that. Meanwhile, if the art you create is so broad that everyone can get it, it's sort of a hack. It's sloppy. Um, One of the things I also love about film and film interpretation and art versus everything is what Alfred Hitchcock struggled with. He always kind of went back and forth trying to figure out commerce versus art. He wanted to make a movie that the masses would like and go see, and it would make a ton of money at the box office. But he also needed the critics and the film nerds and all these people to dig it. So he always struggled with trying to get that perfect balance. And that's kind of the thing with commercial filmmaking is you have to put stuff in there that audiences who aren't trying to have deep messages told to them can enjoy. But you also need to have some substance in there for people like me. Otherwise, it's like, it's just a Fast and the Furious movie. Bones is already doing the darling, light of my life. I'm not going to hurt you. Yeah, we've already got the Jack. Oh, sorry. Darling, light of my life. I'm not going to hurt you. Sorry, that was weak. It'll get better as I go on. The more tired I get, the better my Nicholson gets. Hey, have Cheetah Worldview. Patrick is here. He says, hoot, hoot. Patrick, I actually thought of you when I picked this one out. This is an IFC Essentials. I know what a big champion of IFC films you are. This film is a 6.2 on IMDb. I don't know. Rotten Tomatoes, I'm not digging them. I'm fighting with them right now, I think. Rotten Tomatoes, it's 56%. So whenever I log into Rotten Tomatoes, I get like weird pop-ups and I get mad at it. So it's 55%. Sorry, I take that back. It was blurry. 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. Google, 64%. So that's super low for Google because usually people don't use Google as a rating system. So the only time you vote on a movie is stuff that people have gone back and watched or they love. So a low score on Google means that people in general have come here to say they dislike it. Metacritic, it's an 80% though. So yeah, the overall critics love it and the audience is kind of meh. And that's to be expected with this content, I would think. Like it's like I say, it's the struggle between art and commerce. It's, do you make something that everybody everywhere is going to enjoy, or do you make something that is just going to make like critics be like, wow, that was very thought provoking? A lot of people don't want thought provoking in their movies. So now here they're delving into A Clockwork Orange. And there's a clip of Stephen King's The Shining. Speaking of Patrick, he just got that on DVD, so we've been talking about it together. The Steven Weber one, Mick Garris directed it, and Kubrick really disliked King really disliked Kubrick's Shining because Kubrick was looking to do a horror movie, and then he settled on The Shining. Stephen King was very popular at the time when Kubrick was looking for a horror movie. So he bought he got the script or the book, and he read it several times, and then he would call Stephen King like early in the morning, and like right now till whatever 1:24 in the morning, and wake Stephen King up. Well, Stephen King, who are we kidding? Dude was coked up and awake, but he would call him in the middle of the night and ask him questions like, what does this mean, or what do you think about this person's motivation and stuff. So King was convinced he was like going to be very involved in the movie and how it was going to be developed. And then when it came out, there's just all sorts of stuff that goes against what King was trying to do. So because of that, Kubrick and King sort of had a falling out, and King dislikes The Shining, even though it's arguably his most successful adaptation. Well, Shawshank and Green Mile and a bunch of other stuff came later, but up through at least, the mid 90s, this had been the most successful. Um, People say that King is unadaptable because his books are so big and they're so dense with different ideas and crazy concepts that you have to cut stuff out to make it fit into a 2-hour movie. So in Kubrick's endeavor to adapt the novel into a 2-hour film that is, palatable, you have to cut a lot of stuff out, or you have to bridge the gap of things that you cut out with a different scene. And Kubrick, apparently, because of his genius status, was able to pull it off. Most other people, even King himself with Maximum Overdrive, he says even King can't direct a King movie. Oh, let's see here. We got some folks here. Oh, I left up the Hoot Hoot by Patrick. Where are we at here? Echo says, Bones haven't come up with a good idea from Minotaur's return, but Echo Clown does cry in his return. The teaser is on IG now. Oh, boy. This crying clown is extra scared. Indeed, Rotten Tomatoes is cat poo. So, yes, he is indeed a champion of the IFC films. Oh, and also one of the things I don't like about early Monday morning, Sunday night is I've often pointed out technical stuff goes on in the middle of the night. You learn this when you're up way late. So people like YouTube will make, upload new programs and make adjustments to things and add stuff here and there, but they'll do it in the middle of the night. And then StreamYard, same with internet companies, like the internet providers, they do their upgrades and changes and stuff in the middle of the night, usually like 3-4 in the morning, but especially on Sunday before Monday, because they want all those things to be up and running for the next week, business week. So if at any point we get bad tech, or it could be StreamYard, YouTube, or the cable provider or internet provider. So there's a chance at some point we may get some freezing. I see the internet bars popping up and down as we talk. Right now, they brought up a book. I believe it's called this. Oh God, I can't remember what it's called. Subliminal Messaging in Advertising, I think it was. It came out in like the 60s or the 70s. It was a book I remember we had to read it in college, and it was all about subliminal messaging in advertising, obviously. And they showed like the classic picture. There's a famous one where there's death imagery in ice in an alcohol ad. Same with a lot of like cigarettes and alcohol ads. They put death imagery in there because they think the death wish of the user, of the consumer, they actually have like a desire to, they dig skulls and stuff, man. I don't know. They have their own mortality, I guess. So here's the scene I was talking about before, where the boss stands up and you can see the paper tray is right by where his dong would be. So when Jack comes in, it makes it seem as if he has an erection to see him. And that's one of the scenes in this that sticks out at me, is like, sometimes these folks might go too far. But that's the Kubrick thing. Because he's a genius, people will attribute anything to him. They're like, anything's possible with Stanley. You know what I mean? He's out there. Yep, there it is. The paper tray turns into a very large, straight-on, hard-on coming. Like, yeah, it's like they go way too deep at sometimes, but pardon the giant hard-on go way too deep line, but you know what I mean. Where are we? Rotten Tomato is a joke. They even gave Velma season 14 and season 2.7 and season 1 of 14% and season 22.7 are too high of numbers. Yeah, Velma is awful. I only saw a little bit of season 1, and then I watched a bunch of people's reviews, and arguably terrible. But yeah, Rotten Tomatoes has always been kind of I like the ideas that they compare the critic score versus the audience score. That gets back to my whole art versus commerce thing. The audience score is your money, and the critic score is your critical acclaim. The will it win awards? Will it stand the test of time, etc. But a lot of time the critics get it way wrong, and the stuff that stands the test of time is stuff they hated on. We were last night we watched Big Trouble in Little China, and that crashed at the box office and did absolutely terrible. And the critics disliked it. Roger Ebert and all of them crapped on it. And now later on, every place I looked it up, it mentioned it being a cult classic. Let's see here. IMDb is owned by Amazon, and they manipulate the star ratings. Yeah, that's what I've heard. And then they have some sort of Disney connection. Like all the Disney movies get early press reviews, like the critics they pick specifically are Disney friendly, etc., because they can pick their own whatever critics or vote on it. King was pissed. He offered to write the screenplay. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I got kind of sidetracked there. King really disliked Kubrick's version of this. So later on in the 90s, late 90s, I believe, Mick Garris and him did an ABC miniseries. There'd been like I said, King is unadaptable because his stories are so big that the miniseries worked really well for him instead of the 2-hour movie. You know, if you can throw like 5.5 hours at a King movie, now you can tell more of his story. So there's a whole series of, like, I think ABC mostly had them, but some were on CBS. Tommy Knockers, The Langoliers, It was very successful. And then he did The Shining with Steven Weber. So they did Stephen King's The Shining, and it was directed by Mick Garris. And it was supposed to be, this is the version you want to see because, you know, how much King disliked it. Like, no, this is the real vision. So instead of the maze at the end, the topiaries come to life. The bushes that are cut into animals, like they come to life like they do in the book. That would have been too expensive to do in 1980, you know, without CGI and stuff. You'd have to spend so much money on like practical special effects to make those giant bushes come to life. It just would be most of the budget. So by the 90s, they were able to, you know, use computers and other things to do King's vision. And like in King's version, the mom is a blonde-haired like working woman. Like, she's kind of tough. She's a feminist. And then in Kubrick's version, you know, Shelley Duvall's got dark hair. She's sort of mousy. She's clearly like in an abusive relationship. It's a different character almost altogether. So when the Mick Garris Stephen King version, they get Rebecca De Mornay to play the Shelley Duvall part. Like, now she's back to being a blonde, strong, feminist type. Like, and then Kubrick always hated that Jack Nicholson like kind of seems crazy from the start of the movie. Like, he doesn't go crazy. He just kind of is crazy. And the Steven Weber version, he's like a very nice, friendly sitcom dad kind of guy. And then by the time he starts to go insane, it's more of a character arc. So yeah, there's just thing after thing after thing that King didn't like about Kubrick's version that he always wanted to change. Here's one of the many things they point out. And I find this part super interesting that, sorry, it froze and I wasn't sure if that was the internet or it's the story. One of the things that's interesting is the geography of the Overlook, like where you come in and where elevators are. If behind the elevators is the boss's office where Jack Nicholson gets interviewed, but you can clearly see there are trees there. And it's like, well, why would there be trees there? That's where the elevator is. And the people in this movie make the point that it's clearly because Kubrick is trying to say that everything is off. This is an interdimensional, weird world where everything is strange and bizarre and off-putting and whatever, right? But then other people are like, maybe it's just a mistake. Like, clearly the window outside is a prop. You know, it's just a picture of some trees stuck up there with some lights. So is it intentional or is it an accident? You know, like, was he on some deep psychological stuff to try to mess with your mind, or did they just not really think about it? You know? Where are we? King was pissed he offered to rewrite the screenplay. Also, I did watch a little Velma season 2, but stopped because I started to get sick again, like I did with season 1. Yeah, season 1 was very rough on me. But when I saw they made a season 2, I didn't understand how. There you go. Velma got a second season. Thank you, Patrick. Right on cue. That a boy. Yeah, Echo cut the clown's hair off. Oh, okay. So now there's a backstory to how Echo got how Echo's hair disappeared. It was Echo Clown. My internet takes me offline at around 3 a.m. Yeah, see, Patrick experienced that too. Like all tech places know their least amount of use time, and they don't want to. They want to bother the least amount of customers possible. So when they do these upgrades and they implement new programs and stuff, it's always at middle of the night. I'm like one of the only people who ever sees it. Like, oh, Instagram's down for a half hour or whatever, right? Pat Word, Velma got a season 2 because it was in the contract. They had to do it, but they didn't really push it like they did with season 1. Yeah, the season 1, they really tried to make a big deal out of it and seemed like something that people were gonna like, but right away when the backlash They sort of backed off on promoting season 2. Room 237, that was the haunted room in The Shining, right? Yes, exactly. That's another example. I believe in King's version, it's room 137. Is that right? I don't know. I don't remember. But in the movie, it's 237, mainly because the hotel they filmed it at didn't want room 137 to not ever get rented out by by hotel residents. Guests, Jesus. So because of that, they didn't want to jinx their hotel and make that one room unusable or whatever. So they made up a room that doesn't exist. Which is weird. The hotel I'm staying at, the rooms end at 235 at the end of the hall. Because I went and looked. I was like, can I stay in room 237? And I went for a walk, and there is no such thing. I was very disappointed. Loved the Langoliers. Is that the one in the airplane, right? And then but the CGI is real terrible with the chompy monster deals. The CGI is creaky, but I liked it right there. You always got my back on this, Patrick. He also says Rebecca is sexy as hell. Yeah, everybody loves Rebecca De Mornay. Do you own this movie? Room 237? No, I don't believe I do. I have it on a hard drive, a digital copy, but I don't believe I own the physical media. I'm watching it tonight on AMC Plus, but in the sub-genre category of IFC Essentials. They made it so hard to find this. Like, I Googled watch Room 237 because it was on Tubi. I was going to catch it on there, and I was like, I'll be able to watch it for free. And it had always been in kind of my pocket to do as a companion piece to when I did The Shining. So I've had it set aside to do for a minute, but I didn't want to, I wanted to do it sometime when I figured nobody'd be hanging out because a lot of folks weren't going to be into this subject matter. But yeah, I had it on Tubi. I was going to watch it on Tubi forever, and it went away. So now it's on AMC Plus. And when you Google it and you click it, it takes you right to it. So that's the link I put in the comment section or in the description of this video. But yeah, trying to find it through navigating AMC Plus, through the IFC Essentials, and then into the alphabetical order, it was ridiculous. Yes, here's where they're explaining the geography of the impossible window. Like, some of these folks get so deep into it, it's like, watching the Zapruder film and stuff. Oh, let's see what we got here. Hey, Kal-El Daily. Hello, Donnie. Hello. Nice to see you. Velma isn't worse than I have seen. Isn't the worst you've seen? I don't know. I watched a few episodes of it. It was pretty bad. But I quit watching cartoons. And a lot of the classic animation that I grew up with, and the way I think of animation, like they've gone to different styles, very surrealistic, like rounder cheeks, bigger feet, more Eastern influenced animation and stuff. Or lots of weird futuristic animation. They want everything to look real edgy and pointy. So yeah, I don't know. I like more realistic animation instead of surrealistic. But Velma itself, just the plot, the messages and things going on in it were a bit much. Let's see here. Pat, Velma season 2 makes season 1 look as good. Season 2 makes season 1 look good. It is a lot worse than season 1. Wow, season 2 is even worse? Interesting. What's the gist of this movie? This is a documentary explaining the hidden messages in The Shining. So you got to be a Shining fan or a Stanley Kubrick fan to enjoy it. If you've seen The Shining, like most of us have just a million times on TV and stuff, having this sort of as a companion piece that explains, like, oh, this means this, or this thing going on in the background is this. And then like right now they're showing how a chair, I believe, disappears. Like in one cut, Jack is sitting there and there's clearly a chair behind him. And then when they cut back to Wendy and she says something and they cut to Jack, then the chair is gone. So normally you would just say, well, continuity error. That's a mistake. Somebody clearly the shot of Jack is filmed at a different time and somebody somewhere moved that chair. And when they cut the two scenes together, it was a continuity error. But these people seem to think like, oh no, that means, that the ghosts are playing with the world and that seat is now inhabited by the ghosts of the Overlook and stuff. So some of it feels like gibberish and craziness, but some of it feels like deep cut, like learning the real truths, man, you know. He says, what up, Echo and Bones? Echo says, BR back. He's editing. Damn, I was going to make a trade offer to you, Don. Yeah, I don't know. You got this one on DVD or on Blu-ray? Oh, here's another one too. What some would call a continuity error, and others, people on this insist is, Kubrick's art and imagery. When we first see Danny Torrance when the movie starts, they're in his apartment, and you see him brushing his teeth. He's standing on a little stool, and he's leaning over the vanity, brushing his teeth. And we we push in from his bedroom. So we see on his bedroom door, there's all these stickers on there. They're Disney characters and stuff. There's a whole bunch of like branding in The Shining. I never understood how they got away with, but there's Disney characters on stickers on his door. And you can see one of them is Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs. So then later after he had his first attack, and he's like, had The Shining, and he passed out, and then they put him in bed, and we see the mom and the child psychologist leaving Danny's room. Suddenly the Dopey sticker is gone from his door. So the people who want to get deep on this movie say that the removal of the Dopey sticker shows that Danny is no longer stupid. The world is now open to him and he understands it better. But other people would just say, yeah, whoever set up the door the first time didn't have the sticker, and then when they set it shot, they realized it's a little white, put a little more color in here. Is it a mistake or is it intentional? That's over and over with this movie. But I dig it because it really does explain the process of art interpretation or film interpretation. What are the subtexts? What are the means? Why did they choose it to do this way when they could have done it any of a million ways? What does the color in this scene mean? What is each actor trying to convey with their performance? Getting beyond just what you watch as entertainment. Oh, let's see here. IFC Essentials, basically every IFC release then. Oh, look at you. You love you some IFC. Yeah, what's the other one? The IFC Midnight? Is that the horror one? That's the thing. I never... I usually keep the biggies for my streaming services, Netflix, Prime. Most of the time I have Max because I like Game of Thrones and all that, so I need my Max. But yeah, Netflix, Prime, and Max are sort of the big ones I always have. And then every now and then I'll get Shudder or Disney Plus or whatever. And this is the first time I had AMC Plus. And I dig it. Like I'd gotten Shudder once before on like a free month or whatever. And I watched pretty much everything they had on there because it was early on in their development. But now they have a huge log. And then IFC Essentials has a huge catalog, and AMC Plus with all of their programming plus the movies they license to show. There's a lot on here. So I would recommend AMC Plus, Shudder / IFC Essentials, etc. Especially if you're a Walking Dead person. There is so much Walking Dead to watch on here. All the various spin-offs and whatnot. Let's see here. The Shining is worse than Velma, but I would like to see this documentary. Oh, that's right. You dislike the original Shining, the Kubrick. There's another one, as I was talking about before, how the struggle with art and commerce up front. In this one, when it first came out, did terribly. I don't know if that was because the stuff about King not liking it or what, but like Kubrick was nominated for a Razzie for Worst Director. Shelley Duvall was nominated for a Razzie for Worst Actress. Most people thought Jack Nicholson kind of flopped in this. Let me see here. What was the budget? They're not telling me the budget. I will get to the bottom of this, by golly. Yeah, it was basically a critical and theatrical flop. Okay, so there you go. It's not too bad. 19 million budget and then 47.3 million at the box office. The rule of thumb we always talk about with budgets is you have to take the budget and double it. So that's 38 million because whatever money you spend on the film, spend that same amount advertising the film. So if it was whatever I'm sorry, that's the Shining one. So if it was 19 million, obviously, yeah, 38 million. And then it made 47 back. So it made about 9 million, whatever. But the thing is, it was re-released a bunch of times. And this was also at a time when films would play in theaters for much longer than they do now. The current system is set up for films to be in the theater pretty quick and then get out pretty quick. Um, the turnover of what big movie comes out each week and how many theaters it takes up and then how many extra theaters you have to keep showing old stuff is kind of small. So movies have like, maybe a 2-month window, 3-month window tops at the theater before they're out on home video or and streaming or whatever. But yeah, this one was released several times and played for a long time, and it also went around the world. I know, like, some of the folks in this talk about how it really caught on in England because Kubrick is a genius and appreciated in other countries more than he's appreciated here. No, I don't have this one. Last IFC documentary I got was Tea with Dames. I'm unfamiliar with Tea with Dames. Does it have anything to do with Damian Lillard? Sorry, that's a basketball joke. Nobody will get that. Thanks for the breakdown. You're the man. You're welcome, Cal. That was kind of long-winded, but yeah, that's the beauty of this movie. It's just a strange trip into figuring out the hidden meanings in movies or figuring out what movies have hidden meanings. And because of that, they do a deep dive not only into The Shining, but into all of Kubrick's stuff. There's this whole big thing where many people in the world feel that the moon landing was faked. I don't feel that way. I have questions, but not to the extent of I think it was faked. But in the space race between the Russians and the Americans to be the first people to land on the moon, a lot of people think that America didn't quite have the technology, so they faked it. They filmed it in a sound stage, and supposedly they hired Stanley Kubrick to do that. Like I said, that's not what I think, but that's one theory that gets floated around. So like Danny in this movie is wearing a NASA shirt with a rocket on it. And there's a movie, I think it's called Capricorn 1 with O.J. Simpson and I don't remember who else, but it's all about the faking of the moon landing, them filming a fake moon and people landing on it or whatever. So a lot of people think the American government went to Kubrick, had him film fake moon landing, and then swear to secrecy for the rest of his life. And they think that stuff is hidden all throughout his movies in various little tip-offs. Obviously, like I say, I don't think that way, but that's something to look for that people say, I think a lot of stuff is just kind of made up folklore or ideas that people get in their head and they start running with. Then, synchronicity happens. And, I supposedly when they made Dark Side of the Moon, they did not intend for it to line up with Wizard of Oz. But there are people all over the world who swear that it has to be intentional because it lines up too perfect. So it's just really what you want to believe, I guess. It's a lesson in humanity, understanding if you want to believe something, it'll be there. If you don't want to believe it, it's not there. And I mentioned up front, this movie has, like, the people who have seen it are generally divided on it. They either really love it like I do, or they really hate it. And the people that hate it kind of fascinate me. Like this isn't a mean movie by anything. It's not making any points that should be objectionable. But I think some folks just don't like the idea that there's more going on than, the basic surface level things. The idea that there's way more to think about and stuff kind of hurts their head. Let's see. Where do you rank The Shining as an all-time? Is it 10 or 20? I don't know. I love The Shining. I've seen it so many times because it's on TV so much, like as a kid. And then it had a revival in the 90s where people really were like, it's a good movie, it's The Shining. And then it came out on home video and people really watched it a lot. I think home video and TV, it really blew up particularly. But yeah, I don't know if it would be in my top 20 even. I love so many movies. It would probably be in my top 50, maybe. I don't know. That's a tough list. I think one time I made a top 50 horror movies for Halloween list, and I was struck at how many damn movies I like. Like, I was into the 40s, and I was getting into stuff that it was like John Carpenter's The Thing. No, that was top 10. But The Shining, I don't know. It's probably top 50, but I don't know if it cracked my top 20. But I sure have seen it a lot. Even now, when they keep showing the clips and the various like little, uh, scenes that line up with what they're talking about, it's like, oh yeah, this scene. Um, one of the awesome things about The Shining on TV is Kubrick shot it in 4:3, or what's called open matte. So like normally nowadays everything's in this rectangle, right? Shorter on the sides and longer on the top. So when the old school TVs, the 4:3s, it was like a square, right? So sorry, I'm always backwards on the reverse imaging. So it's like a square. So when you shoot a film, you can either shoot it like this, or you can shoot it open matte, where it's this big square. And then later on, you go and you put letterboxes down over what part of the square frame you want people to see. It gives you more options in editing. So a lot of times what they'll do is there'll be lots of headroom in a 4:3 shot, like there'll be way more room up top up here. So Kubrick shot this open matte, or he shot a lot of his movies open matte, because he knew that they were only going to be in the theater for a certain amount of time, and then they would be on TV, and TV at that time was 4:3. This movie was basically shot for TV and adapted to theaters instead of the other way around. So the cut that played on TV was Kubrick's cut. Nobody else went through and like edited it to make it fit and stuff. Like there's this process called pan and scan, where you take a rectangle screen like this, and since it has to become a square, you lose imaging. And everything over here is now gone, right? So in a lot of movies, things got cut out, things got disappeared. One character would be on this side of the frame, another character would be on this side of the frame. So instead of having both characters talking like this, they're cutting back and forth. So to make movies fit onto VHS or onto TV, they had to re-edit all of them, so they're different than the director's intention. But Kubrick knew that when he made this, it would be made for TV. So the version we saw was always Kubrick's version. When they made the Justice League movie, to apply to my friend Superman here, when they made the Justice League movie, the Zack Snyder one, that was shot open matte. And then when they made the Joss Whedon version, they put the letterboxes down and chose what scenes they wanted or whatever. So when they released the Snyder cut, that's what if people notice, it's weird. It's shot 4:3 because of that open matte style. That's basically how this was shot. Here's the crazy part where they explain that, in this one I totally disagree with too. They're talking about how there's no skiing at the Overlook. That's part of the plot. Jack Nicholson even says, like, well, in the middle of the winter on this mountain with all this snow, like, why wouldn't, I would think skiing would be very popular and huge. And they're like, no, we have to close it down at the winter because there's so much snow, like nobody can drive up it. If they did, they would get trapped and stuff. So in the gaming room where Danny's playing darts and where the twins show up, there's a poster of Ski Monarch on the wall. So the woman explaining her philosophy in this says that, why would they have a skiing poster up in a place where they've already established they don't ski? So a person like me would say, well, whoever did the set design wasn't paying attention to the script or wasn't thinking. They were just like, oh, what would be a poster that would be up, in a ski lodge type place? But this woman posits that the skiing picture is actually a silhouette of a minotaur, like, because the way the body's shaped, it's clearly like a monster imagery. That's part of the beauty of this film, is some people maybe take it too far. Other people like open your mind to stuff you never would have thought about. Yeah, here's where they're explaining like the Minotaur, and this movie just gets deep on another level at some point. But it is the first documentary I've ever done. So as far as my live watch-alongs, documentaries, a lot of people think that they're the truth, like they're news or whatever. Like this is theatrical movies are fake because they're dramas, and then documentaries are real. Once you start playing with film and learning about filmmaking and making your own videos and stuff, you learn everything is fake. It's all what the creator wants it to be. You put this scene in that order and this scene before that scene, or you tell something from this perspective instead of that perspective. You guide the audience with a documentary. So really, there's no such thing as a fair and balanced, even documentary. They're all a propaganda film of some sort. But I love a good documentary because they will pull you in with like footage that makes you feel like you're learning about the world around you, even though, once it's like a book or anything, the author is who's controlling what you're thinking about. Oh, let's see here. Let's see what the folks are talking about. I have seen midnight horror, sometimes action. Sequel is better, in my opinion. Oh, the Dr. Sleep. Yeah, Dr. Sleep was very good. I enjoyed it. Surprisingly much. I thought it was going to suck. But between Rose the Hat being and the Ewan McGregor playing like a really good grown-up Danny Torrance who's kind of following in his father's alcoholic footsteps and him going to meetings and stuff, all that's very well done and well thought out. Echo's still going on about Velma season 2 is more sexist and racist than season 1, and Scrappy Doo returns for it. Let's not forget Mindy Kalings, who was rich bitching about rich people nonstop. Yeah, that's the problem. I've said before, I agree with a lot of with the concepts behind political correctness, and I agree. I'm a centrist, but I'm a left centrist. I believe in most of the right. Most of the ideas are on the good ideas are on the left, but there are so many people on the left who are just so insufferable that I can understand how some folks end up on the right just out of spite. And Mindy Kaling is one of those people, unfortunately. So once again, we're explaining the geography of the Overlook, and this is fascinating. Like they're showing how Danny is going around in a circle around the giant, I forget what it's called, the Montana room or something. The room where Jack Nicholson's riding and throwing the ball and stuff. And they show how Danny rides his tricycle or the big wheel in a square. And as he turns one corner, he should be back in the whatchamacallit room, the Montana room. But instead, he's in the kitchen. So the geography is all wrong. And then later on when they cut to him, he's upstairs. They're like, well, how did he get upstairs with a big wheel? It's like, well, there is an elevator. So it basically just dissects every little minutia of The Shining and tries to establish, is it an accident? Is it some hidden meaning? Are they trying to disorient the audience with bizarre geography that makes the brain confused subconsciously? I don't know. Let's see here. We covered Rust Creek last Sunday. Man, that was so good. I don't think I've seen Rust Creek. Triple the budget, not the double. Triple the budget? I've heard it's double. Because you have to go one for the budget and then the same budget for the whatever. Why would it be triple? Hit me up. Old stuff is fun. Capricorn 1, yeah. Get your goddamn head down. Yeah, there you go. Telly's thoughts were so I agree. No, we hate it because Kubrick didn't follow the book. He killed off the main character. I think all sorts of people dislike The Shining for the main reasons. Are you talking about the Kubrick or the King one, right? Like, I think a lot of people dislike that one. A lot of people just didn't like the King adaptations. Like, even if you watch it, Tim Curry's performance is really good, and it stands the test of time, and it's as good as anything in a film, a major motion picture. But a lot of the rest of the It miniseries isn't very good. A lot of it's super low budget and heavy acted, and there are certain scenes that are good, but it's more of a thing where a lot of us saw it when we were young, so it's memorable. Like it made an impression on us when our minds weren't fully developed. But Tim Curry's performance is awesome always. And then, like I said, with the Langoliers, that's like a cool Twilight Zone one. But in there, the special effects, a lot of people complain about. Sleepwalkers was kind of wild and crazy. That's a divided one. Some people like it and dislike it. That's not a made for TV, but just King in general. His adaptations are generally, people don't like them. I, however, love Maximum Overdrive. I don't care even King doesn't like Maximum Overdrive, and I do. That movie's fun. Not believe all the things you want. Don't stop existing because people in denial. Yep, exactly. Not top 30 for me, but certainly a good movie. Yeah, Shining is a classic, especially on a winter day. That's when I did my other watch along of The Shining. It was a snowy day. We were all trapped in. I was frozen into a hotel. I was like, well, shoot, let's watch The Shining. What's more perfect than that? Um, I always think of it as like snow day movie. Like when I was a kid and we'd have the day off from school, it's like, ooh, let's watch The Shining, especially after I had it on VHS. The VHS was a big deal too, because not only was The Shining on there, but there was the making of documentary where Kubrick, I think, was it shot by Kubrick's wife? I don't remember. But there's a making of documentary in there, and it's famous because Kubrick is like just a total ass. As I said earlier, he's a genius. And most people know Kubrick is a genius, but unfortunately, he's one of those people who, because he's so smart, he frequently talked down to everyone around him. And his like mental and psychological abuse of Shelley Duvall to try to get the performance he wanted out of her, of being like just so like frayed at the ends, like just ready to snap because she's like just terrified. He was often just rotten to her and mean to her and just say terrible things and try to get her in a way so it would be on screen. And that documentary really turned people on to like what a nutbag Kubrick was. Like I say, genius, but nuts. Yeah, there's footage of Kubrick typing, doing rewrites in the Overlook. Like I said, he rewrote a lot, changed a lot around. There's even a really awesome scene in here that they explain, where in King's version, I'm going to get it wrong until I see it, but basically in King's version, the Torrance family drives a yellow Volkswagen Bug, I believe, or is it green? Whatever. I think it's green. And then the Torrance, the King version, the Kubrick version, sorry, they drive a different colored VW Bug. So as they're going up the hill to the Overlook in the snow, Dick Halloran, when he's coming back later, when he's coming to rescue them, he sees a VW Bug has been crashed into a semi-truck along the snowy road. And they say when King saw that in the theater, he got up and walked out, because he knew that was, Kubrick's psychological, putting stuff into the film. And he was telling King, like, your book is dead. The people from that story died in this crash that we see off to the side of the road. This is my story. Like, I'm taking over now. This is my version, not your version. And they say that little piece of imagery spoke to King so much, he got up and walked out. Here they're talking more about the fake moon landing stuff. If you're into conspiracy theories, or you're a person who is into, whatever, revelatory documentaries, or whatever the nice term for being into conspiracy theories is, this is definitely one you should check out, because it really digs deep into various things that you don't give a lot of thought about. But to a person like me, it also explains how people get caught up thinking stuff that's illogical. It can be presented in a way, and if you want to believe hard enough, it's there. Let's see here. Shelley Duvall was the most unattractive leading lady this side of Margot Kidder. I actually don't mind Margot Kidder. A little bit. The scratchy voice is a bit much for me, which is ridiculous since I have a scratchy voice tonight. But yeah, I personally, unfortunately, I've had to talk about this in a lot of movies. The people in the movie have to be pretty. That's the hard part about being a good actor or actress, is you have to be attractive enough for people to want to stare at you for 2 hours, So character actors can be weird looking or interesting looking, or however you want to describe it. But leads almost always have to be beautiful, be they man or woman. It's not a sexist thing. It's, look at the best leading men of all time, Cary Grant and, George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Humphrey Bogart and stuff. These are all like classic handsome men. But then, same with women, the very successful, like Roberts and Sandra Bullock and, Princess Grace, all throughout, what's her name? Ingrid Bergman, they're all beautiful. Donna Reed. No matter where you go throughout history, the leads have to be attractive enough to want to look at, unless they're comedies. Usually comedians can get away with being kind of funny looking, but everybody else, you got to be pretty. So yeah, I understand your point about Shelley Duvall. It's surprising that I find her to be likable, but mainly just because she's so mousy, you all want to take care of her, like as a, you hate to see someone this ill-equipped to be in a situation like she is in The Shining. But as where like if like when Kubrick wanted to cast, or when King wanted to cast this, his idea was that it would be Terry Garr instead of Shelley Duvall. So if you're familiar with Terry Garr from like Mr. Mom and stuff, that's a totally different person. But I don't feel like I need to take care of Terry Garr. Like there's no part of me that wants to give her like a big hug, like and say it's going to be okay. But Shelley Duvall, yeah, she's total. Well, she feels like a battered woman. She feels like someone who's in distress in a bad situation, and she's constantly walking on eggshells, and she's like, she does portray that very well. But yeah, just from an attractive standpoint, she's an acquired taste. Once again, more moon landing stuff. They're saying that when they go in the pantry, like when Dick Halloran is showing Wendy and around, or Doc around, and he goes into the big pantry and he's like, there's enough food in here to live for like a year or whatever. There's all this meat and there's all these like different products in the storage pantry, and they open it up and you see like Tang and coffee and all this stuff. Well, they say that all of the brands, the labels are turned in a certain way so you can see Indian heads, or you can see the Tang logo over and over and over again. So these people interpret it as the Tang is there to talk about the moon landing stuff, because Tang was the astronaut drink. And then other people say that the Calumet coffee with the Native American head with the big headdress in there explains the whole Native American subtext that's going on in this, the taking their land away stuff. Person like me would say they're doing exactly what grocery stores do. You got to front the labels so it's more attractive, because on the back of the label's all writing, and if everything's all disjointed and label facing this way, but then it's twisted on this one, it's visually it's incongruous, it's discontinent, it's jumbled up and makes a mess. It's not your brain gets mad at it, right? Dissonance, that's a damn word I was looking for. So when you label, or when you turn the labels all front on everything, it looks prettier and more attractive. So I would say that he's just following what grocery stores do. But other people say, no, those Indian heads are very important messaging, or that Tang is very important messaging. Oh, yeah. By the way, if you don't believe that this movie has moon landing stuff in it, the Earth is 237, or the moon is 237,000 miles away from the Earth. And that's one of the points they make, is at room 237. He's flat out telling you that he faked the moon landing. Duh. What is this? So here they're explaining about the number acronym. I forget what this part is. Oh, dear Lord. They're explaining how the key to the room, and it says room number 237. But the O on number is small. So it says room NO. And the O is very small, almost like a degree symbol. It's a very small no. So the person on here is positing that they want the O to be small because it's irrelevant to the anagram of room N, which if you drop the R off is moon. You see what I mean? Some of these folks take it too far, to the point where you're like, okay, what now? But other things they bring up, you're like, yeah, that is the whole thing about the Dick Halloran with the, here it is. He's going up the highway, looking up the Overlook. He passes a wreck. The semi, yeah, it's a red one. The red VW bug, because that's what Stephen King had in the book, that the Torrances drove a red one. So here he's saying from Kubrick to King in the novel, Jack Torrance's car is red. But in the movie, it's a yellow Volkswagen. So yeah, they're trying to say it's a big FU to Stephen King. But supposedly, like I say, the rumor is that it, King got the message that was supposed to be sent to him, and he got up and walked out. Hilarious. When they're telling this story, they're cutting to different scenes of Kubrick's movies and King's movies, and they're using them to like help tell the story. the when they showed Stephen King freaking out uh, about the whole changes that Kubrick made. They used clips from Creepshow with what's his name, Geordie, whatever, where King gets the moss, meteor shit, where King gets covered in moss. So they had him like as a big dumb redneck, like all freaked out. Let's see here, Shelley Duvall. Wow, come here, you. Nicholson didn't want Duvall as his co-star. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know if she'd really done a lot of movies prior to that. Like, she isn't really known as a movie star, leading lady type. Like I say, it conveys emotionally the character that Kubrick wanted, but yeah, I don't know if she qualifies as a movie star. Rip Bernard Hill. I got original. It's slightly over the new. Yeah, I like the original better personally. Carrie, Christine, and Cujo is held high. Yeah, those all decent. But even them, like I always liked Firestarter. Firestarter's thought of as bad. Carrie is considered a decent one, and then Christine Carpenter. I always feel like that's more of a Carpenter movie than a King movie. But even then, it's got enough of the elements where it feels kingy. And then Cujo, I enjoyed always. I think Cujo is basically a shark. It's basically Jaws in a car. Like, what if Jaws was a dog? These people are trapped inside the thing, and there's an angry biting monster circling around them, and they can't get out, and they have to defeat it. Later on, some of the ones that also I liked weren't held in high regard, though. I do agree that Carrie and Christine and Cujo are all decent. And then later on in the 90s with Shawshank and Green Mile and what's his name now? Mike Flanagan. He's really good at adapting Stephen King stuff. Same with old boy who did those It movies. I thought he did good too. Every movie with King's name above the title struggled at the box office. Yeah, like I said, he was considered unadaptable for a long time, but that term was used forever. Like Lord of the Rings was always considered unadaptable, and The Watchmen. I mentioned that on my Watchmen watch along of Watchmen. I mentioned that there that it was considered unfilmable, unadaptable. So a lot of King stuff is frequently just considered unadaptable. But every now and then somebody cracks the code. They understand to get the essence of what the story is about and kind of get rid of the other stuff you don't need. Margot looks like a cox, and I don't think neither's unattractive. So she goes gone. So I keep her memory pleasant past, in my opinion. Yeah, Margot passed. Margot had a crazy life. She's an interesting person. I'd like to see a documentary about her. But yeah, she does a little bit of Courtney Cox. Like, see, I'm a big Superman 2 mark. Superman 2 came out when I was very young, Superman 1 and 2. So her as Lois Lane, like, I kind of liked her spunk. Like, I liked that she was sort of dumb often in that, and it would get on my nerves. Like, she'd get herself into trouble a lot, and that's frustrating with a heroine. But other than that, yeah, I always thought Margot Kidder was all right. Brooke Adams is a prettier version of Margot Kidder, if you've ever seen The Dead Zone and some other stuff. That's the market correction. Market corrections happen all the time. Like Lindsay Lohan comes out and she's very popular, but then she kind of screws up her own career, and people are like, yeah, she's not worth dealing with. And then Emma Stone comes along and they're like, there you go. That's the better version of her. We got one who's actually talented this time. Why are you not coming up? Not always. Katharine Hepburn wasn't pretty, but a power actor-wise. Yeah, well, even then, young Katharine Hepburn was all right. But yeah, but she aged rapidly, and as she aged and moved into more like matronly roles, she, when she was older, she had a lot of gravitas. Sadly, a lot of actresses don't have gravitas as they get older. I don't know if that's a sexism thing or just them or what, but very few women have that boss power that you need for some roles. But the ones who have it, boy, they kick ass at it. Helen Mirren and stuff. Woo, some of them just kick ass. Let me see here. Who else we got? Kelly, what's my favorite subgenre in horror? I don't know. I like a lot. See, when I think of horror, my first thought is always slashers, because I grew up in the 80s and that was like the main, genre of horror. But the stuff I always enjoy is usually like a good ghost story or a supernatural stuff. Like I say, I enjoy most King things, and there's a lot of supernatural stuff in there. Um, um, like Guillermo del Toro's The Devil's Backbone is like a really good ghost story, and like Poltergeist I liked a lot. I mean, haunted house movies are basically just extensions of ghost stories, um, so I guess I prefer probably supernatural, like paranormal type stuff the most. I find it most interesting, but a good real horror, like the real horror of The Shining, of being trapped alone with someone who loses their mind and tries to kill you. That's a thing that happens in real life all the time. Like, somebody's boyfriend or somebody's girlfriend will take too many drugs, or, have a psychotic episode and just like murder their spouse or something. You see it on the news. And it's like, that's a real life horror. That's terrible. In Wisconsin right now, we've got this thing going on. There's an arm washed up on the shore of a river. And then a little bit later, or a lake, I think. And then later on, a torso washed up. So they've been trying to like unravel the mystery of like, whatever. And they figured out that it was some crazy guy who murdered a woman he met on the street and stuff. And just real life horror is like terrifying to me. So movies like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and Silence of the Lambs, stuff like that, like, I don't know, it bothers me almost more than traditional things that would be under horror. It's weird how Henry's horror, but Silence isn't. I don't know. That's a whole separate discussion. But yeah, so I either like ghosts or paranormal weirdness, Amityville, Poltergeist, whatever, or real life stuff. I think that's probably why Jaws always was cool to me, even though the size of Jaws is ridiculous. It getting attacked by a shark feels like a real thing, as opposed to being stalked by Jason or whatever. Tang was the drink of NASA. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I had that. It was all over the commercials. I don't think I've seen a Tang commercial in years. I think they still make it though. Tang is caveman for Echo Thong. That's a long one. Kids cereals are always at the bottom shelves. Yeah, I think on the shelving they do. Oh, you mean in a pantry or whatever? Yeah, they in grocery stores they do the stuff all the time where they put like the more expensive brands in the middle, and then they put like the mid-class brands up top, and then the generics towards the bottom. For most of my life, grocery stores were laid out all the same way, and then stupid Facebook made the rule that if you keep changing things around, people will spend more time on the site. So stores started doing that. You change everything around and people spend more time in the store confused. But for years, everything was laid out the same way. They all had the same pattern. So there's always people thinking about how stuff is done and how to tinker with it and mess with the human mind, especially consumerism. If we did it this way, would it work better? Do more people buy it if we do it this way? People who give a lot of deep thought to things can really influence people, and a lot of folks never even give any thought to the manipulation and the stuff that's going on in their lives. I think that's why I said some people hate this movie, because it really makes them think like there's so much more on most things than at the surface level, Let's see what's going on with chat. Let's see. I thought the moon was 240,000 miles away. See, that's what I mean. That's when I talk about manipulation of documentaries, how they're propaganda films. When folks like watch a YouTube video and they become convinced the world's flat or whatever, right? They're trusting the person doing the documentary to be accurate or not fudge the numbers or not do whatever, right? So the information you get is only as good as the source. And, if somebody makes something in a compelling way, like a good documentary, you often like treat them as a reliable source, and all they are is just a good filmmaker. So yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know exactly. Let's find out right now. How far is moon from Earth? 238,900 miles. So see, there you go. The dude who was speaking was basically, full of crap right there. And that's, what I tell all people. When you watch a documentary or you get, hipped into some stuff, it's not the news. They're not supposed to give information that is false. Like news and people A lot of people think news channels are fake or whatever, but they're beholden to being able to be sued. Documentaries aren't. Like if unless you slander someone, the false information or incorrect information, so the filmmaker got it wrong. So you can manipulate anybody's thoughts on things if you start lying to them or giving them false information. That's why in my life, a wise lesson I would give to everyone, it took me years to learn, but never listen to any story that's in between. Like if somebody says, so-and-so said, da-da-da-da, quit listening. If you think the person who said it, but the person who's being the go-between, you're not getting what that original person said. You're getting the intermediaries version of it. And that's, documentaries, news, anything. It's best to find out for yourself, but you also have to really trust the information. You can't just look for what you want to. You can't craft the news to be what you want it to be to fit your happiness. Where am I in the middle of my rambling? So there you go, Patrick. It was neither 240 or 237. There you go, 238.9 to the moon. He looked. They're going to release a movie about the moon landing, and there's part of it where the film fake landing, just in case something goes wrong. I've heard that theory too. One of the things I've never been able to ask, like when I say I have questions about the moon landing, people are like, "Oh, conspiracy theorist." It's like, no, I'm a filmmaker. So when I look at the footage of Neil Armstrong climbing down the ladder, and he says, "One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." The question I always have is, well, how did the camera that filmed him coming down the ladder get there? Like, did we have separate technology where they sent a lunar pod down there and landed and set up a camera that was then transporting images back to Earth? I mean, we just figured out how to get a rocket to the moon. How the hell are they getting satellite images projected back to the Earth? Or is it faked? Did Neil Armstrong get out of the capsule, go set up the camera, go back to the capsule, get in, and then climb out and pretend like he was landing on the moon? I think that's most likely the real answer. But that's what I mean. I would like to understand, how did the camera get on the moon? Same with that car. You ever see them driving around the car on the moon? It's like, it didn't look like a car could fit in that landing, capsule that lands on the moon. But that's stuff I'm sure that someone somewhere could explain to me. It's like, no, that fits underneath here. And if you put this and this together, you can take it apart or whatever. And same with the camera landing. It's like, no, we have a remote control that somebody else set up there or whatever. But no one ever gets into that stuff. They want to get into how the government's trying to make you into a slave or whatever. Break. Why would the government need you to be a slave? You already give them half. Making you a slave would just make you rebel. Let me see. Too deep. What do we got here? I see the make my shirt all messed up. I saw it when we freeze for a second. The internet is being sketch at 2:23 in the morning. Speaking of that, I am at the 1:15:19 mark. So there's approximately a half hour left of this. 2:23 a.m. Central Time, 3:23 Eastern Time. Do the rest of the math yourself. Where was I? They got upset at the director and say, "Why we should have hired Kubrick." There you go. Scarlett is looking fire in the previews, probably talking about Johansson. Where do Bones act? Bones was supposed to tell me what me and him might be watching on the Boneyard this week. He's supposed to pick out something good for me. Maybe he went to bed. Maybe he went to go pick out a good movie for me to watch. Didn't Fede Alvarez break the horror records with Ing? Yeah, that was the other guy I was trying to think of. Fede Alvarez, thank you. Mike Flanagan, I think, is the current champ. Previously, Mick Garris was always the champ, even though most people were relatively unhappy with his King adaptations. He was considered the best King adapter. And then Darabont, obviously, but Darabont does the more drama stuff, the Richard Bachman stuff and all that. Although the missed. But Fede with It especially, people felt like that was good. But even that, he needed two parts. Traditionally they would try to get It down to a 2-hour movie, not a 4-hour movie or whatever. Let's see. Amy Adams and Erica Durance made a great Lois Lanes. I don't know if Erica Durance, sorry. Which one was Erica Durance? I forget her. Amy Adams. In the new Justice League movies. I liked her enough. I mean, I don't really have anything good or bad to say against her. She was just sort of there, I mean, she's Amy Adams is always solid. That's the thing about her. She's very like reliably and competent. You're going to get a good solid performance. Um, but in general, yeah, I don't remember Lois Lane. I don't think of as like one of her main awesome roles. Paranormal supernatural films are yeah, that's what I mean. I think there's something, I don't know. All humans like the idea that there's more to things, except for people who hate this movie, apparently. So trying to understand the afterlife and having creepy stories of things that you can't explain and get chills. The slasher killer genre has it been so overdone that there's not too much new and original with it. Scream did a good job getting into a mystery, but even a few 80s slashers have mystery vibes to them, so I feel like slasher films or murderer films are just sort of, they've been done so much, it's almost impossible to do anything new with them. But paranormal stuff, there's always something new to, what kind of crazy ideas. Even I came up with a weird idea the other day for a ghost story. It's just something that you guys tweak and give a new spin on. And you can include all the elements of horror, the old house. Like I say, haunted house movies are essentially just extended ghost stories. A lot of them take place at night. That's always a key for a good horror movie. Daytime horror is always weird. So yeah, paranormal, supernatural films, they really kind of haunt at you. King has some sort of supernatural element to all of his stuff, even the more earthly grounded stuff. What? I seen the screen go black. I apologize. Like I say, middle of the night is often the time when the witching hour, yo. Amity means friendship. Oh, really? Hasn't the world moved over time? Maybe even once upon a time. Who knows? See, now your stuff's coming out, Cal. Yeah, I'm unaware if the Earth has moved farther away from the Earth since this was made. We would need Neil deGrasse Tyson. Next show, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Smart man, don't let the middle manipulate how you feel about someone or something. Yeah, see, Cal knows. Most of the trouble in my life, I've realized with when somebody comes to you and says, here's what so said. It's like, I'm not falling for that okie doke anymore. If it's something I need to know from them, they can come tell me. Or if they're too cowardly to tell me, I'm cool. I don't need to know then. Don, it's all the Matrix, right? That's what I'm saying. Well, that's one of the things about getting back to this film being about art interpretation. One of the weird things that takes being on Earth a while to realize is we're all living in a different world. Like, we're all raised differently. We all live in different parts of the country. We have different friend groups, different families, etc. And that's all what contributes to our makeup of who we are and how we are. So everybody's looking at the world through different prisms. So a movie like this, one person can see, a bunch of Native American headdresses and say this is clearly a movie depicting the plight of the Native Americans. Or a person like me who's like, no, it just looks prettier with all those heads instead of a bunch of awkward nutritional labels and whatnot. I look at it from everything probably has a money reason behind it. If nothing else, then probably they got product placement money for all I know. Tang probably kicked in a little bit. So yeah, I'm frequently influenced by the idea that commerce controls most decisions, as where other people would say, no, this is what I see, this is what it is. And we're all in our own world. I think the truth tries to come when we at least find common ground and agree, like, hey, we're all going through this together, but try not to be so harsh on everybody else's different ideas unless they're problem causing, Anytime anybody says, hey, we need to go make them do something, you're usually on track. That's a rule of life, That land over there, I want it. Let's go take it. That people, they have stuff I want. Let's go take it. I need money to support whatever problem in my life, so I'll just go take it from somebody else who has it. Once you start messing with the other people, I'm usually out. Leave other folks alone. Life's hard enough. So here they're explaining about what I was talking about before, the map, the open, how the film itself was originally shot for TVs, like in a square. That's why the VHS version was actually the right version. So a lot of times the 16:9 or the matted version is often a re-edited one. And here they talk about how the film can be watched both forwards and backwards. Like they say that when you put the two movies on and you start one at the end and rewind it and you play the other one in regular motion, the scenes strangely line up. Like I was talking about the synchronicity of Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz. Like sometimes people will just stumble on to weird things, and that's one of the ones in this. They talk about like when this scene happens exactly at this point, this scene's happening at this point. See the framing of the scene, see the color tones of the scenes, et cetera, et cetera. And at one point they even show like they take the two movies and superimpose them so you can watch like sort of the ghostly images of both movies going forward and backward. Who the hell would ever do that? If Kubrick wanted you to do that, he wasn't a genius, he was insane, which may happen. Let's see, what do we got here? Erica is Smallville. Okay, see, that's the thing. I need to go watch Smallville. I watched a little bit of it, but I never got into it. It sounded like something I would like a retelling of the Superman story. You know, I know that what's his name, Tom Welling or whatever. That's a lot of people's favorite Superman. Possessed Owl would make a good story. Who? Me? Adam Sandler is the king of product placement in films. Heck yeah. A lot of those Saturday Night Live people are. I don't know if that's a Lorne Michaels thing or what, but they figure out how to do product placement. Because if you think about it, we live in a branded world. So the idea that I would be driving a car in the middle of the movie I'm in and drive by a billboard for Coca-Cola or whatever is very believable. So make Coke kick some money in. Or the vehicle I'm driving, maybe it's an electric car, so have the Prius people kick in money. Maybe maybe the hotel you're going to make your movie at is thinks that they can off of people wanting to come stay at it because that's where the movie was filmed. All right, well, let them give you the location for free because you're about to make them a bunch of money. Movies cost so much to make. If you can figure out any way to try to balance the budget or get extra money from here or there. But Sandler, though, is absurd. Like, he just straight up has commercials in some of his movies, like that Al Pacino Dunkin' Donuts commercial that's in the middle of one of the movies and stuff. Yeah, here they're showing the superimposed films where it's playing backwards and playing forwards, and where Jack is in the tunnel or in the maze, and he's freaking out, and he's carrying the axe, and he's covered in snow and losing his shit. At the same exact time, going the other way, played the proper speed, Jack is being interviewed, and the two faces line up. You see a calm face superimposed against an angry face. These people are nuts. But at the same time, I appreciate that somebody somewhere thought enough to try that to see what it looked like. And the scene where Danny is eating a peanut butter sandwich before they go to the Overlook, he's like staring off into space, having one of his visions. If you do the thing where you play it backwards or in reverse over the top of it, that's the same time Jack is losing his shit. Like he's going nuts. So Danny is actually envisioning the movie, him going nuts. So was it an accident, or did Kubrick intend that? I would say it's clearly an accident, but the old catch-all of Kubrick is a genius means maybe he did. Here, the scene where Wendy discovers the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. When they show the beginning where Jack is throwing the ball against the wall and he's not writing, and they show the empty page, those are the two scenes that line up. So I don't know. Insane, probably. Yeah, Don, but you eat pineapple pizza, so those views are shady. See, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's basically, you can figure out all my political philosophies. It's like, leave people alone and help out where you can. Like, try to be as nice as you can until it's time not to be nice. Oh, wait a minute, that's Roadhouse's political philosophy. Never mind. Yeah, they're getting real deep with this forward and back imagery thing. They're explaining how, like, when Delbert Grady and the original caretaker and Jack are talking in the bathroom, that that same scene is when Danny is watching the TV. But to me, the scene with the TV is way more interesting because I have questions about like where's the cord? That's the same thing they do in the Matrix. Like in a TV like that, there would have to be a cord running along the floor, plugged in somewhere, but there is no cord. It's just like a TV standing, floating in space kind of thing. That's how the Matrix does it too. So I'm more interested on how he got the cord gone, or what was it just because the cord felt like too cluttered in the scene and it distracted from the composition of the shot, or did they take the cord away to make it feel like it was a ghostly surrealistic TV or whatever? This is one of those movies you can just dig into deep and go way into the weeds if you want. Let's see here. They were showing the clip now where at the end of The Shining, the kind of the button on the movie that most people remember is really kind of cool. You realize Jack Nicholson has been the caretaker all along. That's what they say. You've always been the caretaker. And they show a party from a ball event that was happening. Most people think it's New Year's Eve because everyone's in tuxedos holding up champagne glasses. And even around New Year's Eve time, people will post memes of the picture and stuff, and it'll say Happy New Year's or New Year's Eve Overlook Hotel and stuff. Those are all manipulated and fake. It's 4th of July. The Overlook is closed during the winter. So it's the 4th of July ball. But I've seen so many manipulated images of that being changed to New Year's Eve online. Now they're starting to talk about the carpet. They're getting way deep into it now. The round curves of that carpet and the hexagons in the hallway. Oh boy, yeah, they're going way too deep now. But that's what I dig. I mean, if you've listened to any of my other commentaries on movies, one of the things I often try to dissect is, okay, this shot right here was clearly set up. It took a day to set up, to lighten everything. How much art did they pour into it? How much hidden messaging or subtext or themes or whatever are going on in it? And whether my interpretation is, usually I find art interpretation it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Whatever's going on in your life, like meditation, if you meditate, the things that bother you will surface to the top. When you dream, the things that bother you will surface to your brain. So when you interpret art, the things that bother you or are on your mind will kind of come to the forefront of the interpretation. So like, some people watch a movie and they're like, oh, that's clearly about, drug abuse or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe they're concerned about themselves or someone in their life who has a drug issue. That's why they're getting that interpretation. But other people will see it and they're like, oh, this is a movie about war or whatever, The person who's interpreting the message is often influences what the message is. That, like I was talking about before, of never trusting the middlemen. When you take communication classes, speech communication, etc., when you take, that's what I studied in college, was communications. There's lots of art and theater and radio and television and film all encompassed under that, but it's really a catch-all for just, how to use words and how to use messages to talk to people and what's the best way to go about it, which explains why I'm so terrible at this, why I'm constantly stumbling through my words. But one of the things that it's in the beginning of every communications book, like the first week of whatever class you're taking, the same model. It's sender, receiver, interference. So there's the message that the person who's saying the thing is trying to convey, and there's the message that the person who's listening to the thing is hearing, and they're not always the same thing. Usually the problem is the interference in the middle. That's why I say don't ever trust middlemen. If somebody's got something to tell you somebody else said, it's probably a mess. Oh, dear Lord. Now they're explaining how many images of the movie have to do with the Third Reich and how Kubrick was traumatized by World War II in his early years, and that's why he did Paths to Glory and I don't know, all this other stuff. But they just keep taking it in new, wild directions of how the hell did we get here? What is that? Sorry, they had a new one on me. They were explaining how the pattern in the rug changes when Danny stands up. So once again, is that an accident? Is it a continuity error? Or is it Are they trying to show that it's no longer because it's reversed? You get a sense of closure. So yeah, they're saying that the choice to change the carpet pattern and the direction that the carpet is flowing from one shot to another is intentional to try to make the brain feel away. I would say it's probably just a continuity error. They set up the shot one way and then they were like, okay, we got to turn the camera around and shoot the reverse. Let's do it in this hallway where there's better lighting, you know. Let's see. Oh, nice to see you, my friend. It's a film with a secret message that the British are best. Oh, this guy. Gareth, have you seen Room 237? I asked folks in the chat before, but nobody responded. So this is an opportunity for Gareth and folks in the chat and folks in the comment if they've ever seen this. I know Cal hasn't. He asked what was it about. But like I say, it's more than 10 years old, so a lot of folks are familiar with it. But it's a deep cut. It feels like you're reading a book about Stanley Kubrick more than you're watching a movie or a documentary. Folks are saying hi to Gareth. Gareth's awesome. Oh, by the way, anytime we mention Video Tasties, drink. So it's part of the drinking game. And here they're saying, one of the guys who's explaining how The Shining connects to the moon landing and how Kubrick supposedly, directed the moon landing. He's explaining how his friends at NASA are upset with him. And they show like what they think is compelling evidence that, like take this shot of the astronauts on the moon and then you push in the background and you can see there's like a blue light. Well, there shouldn't be any blue lights in space. Like none of the stars should register as blue. So when you push in, that's clearly a black cloth background that's supposed to be space. And then for some reason, light is blinging through one of the holes in the background. So, aha, see, the moon landing was fake. Once again, it's just, you have to trust the person giving you the information. A lot of these folks come off as like way too obsessed with the work of Kubrick or whatever their personal agenda is. The person who's very interested in Native Americans seems to find Native American stuff in this whole movie. The people who are very interested in the moon landing, they seem to find the moon landing stuff. How can the rest of you be so stupid and not see it? Gareth says, I've seen it a couple times. Goes off the rails in the second half. Yeah, I do agree. They kind of start you off slow and they do the art interpretation stuff like I was talking about, where people explain what they see and how many times they've seen it and how the movie has an impact on their life and stuff. And then in the second half, they get way into the weeds on like, all the different meanings and all the different craziness and incongruities that don't line up and stuff. But I do feel it's an awesome companion piece to The Shining. Much like if you're a fan of the movie Boondock Saints, there's a movie called Overnight about the guy that wrote and directed Boondock Saints. And I feel like those movies are companion pieces. Same with Apocalypse Now and what's it called? Hearts of Darkness. I almost called it Army of Darkness. Hearts of Darkness, I think. It's a documentary made by Coppola's wife of the making of Apocalypse Now. On the Dusk Till Dawn DVD, there's a double disc that comes with a movie called Full Tilt Boogie, and it's about making a Hollywood movie and then like how the unions affect the making of the movie and all of the what it's like to try to make a union or an independent film versus a unionized film. And I just feel like those movies are companion pieces. So yeah, I feel like Room 237 should almost be a documentary that comes with The Shining when you buy it. It makes you want to watch The Shining again, though. It does do that. It's like, I need to go back and watch some of this and see if I see what these people are seeing. Gareth said, the Brits are the tea champs of the world. I don't know. The Chinese might be arguing with y'all, but I'm not a tea drinker. So, are you familiar with Arnold Palmer? Do you guys have Arnold Palmer over there? Especially like it when they play it backwards to see where it lines up. You know what's up. Yeah, that was the part just before you came in. Yeah, they play the two over the top of each other, and you see that the varying themes of the movie. I would say that's just story structure. Like I often talk about that when we watch movies here is how films are the screenplay is constructed mathematically. A lot of people don't know that. Like if you have a 2-hour movie, a half hour is the first act, an hour is the second act, and a half hour is the third act. Usually at the 1 hour mark, there will be some sort of twist, a plot twist, as it were. With about like 5 minutes left, there's usually an all is lost moment. Every minute of a screenplay equals to, or sorry, every page in a screenplay equals to 1 minute of screen time. So every 10 pages, there should be a genre beat. So in a half hour first act, you should have 3 examples of horror, or 3 examples, or 3 of action, or 3 moments of comedy, whatever your genre is. So when you break down all these little elements and make this like structure, you see architecture more than you see like a free-flowing story like most people are enjoying. I often check out the math on movies. I'll say, oh, that's a big scene, and I'll hit the time key, and sure enough, dead center middle, the little scroll bar is right in the middle. So yeah, the part where they line them up, that's just basically the muse of movies. They want the characters to grow and get to a place where they devolve. It's build tension and release. Now they're getting deep into the picture with the overlook at the end, the New Year's Eve ball. Now they're talking about when Danny, they're doing the thing where they line them back up again. See, they're saying that how we were talking about how they play it forward and they play it backward, and they lay them over the top of each other. They explain that Kubrick wants you to do that because that's in the scene where Danny is in the maze. He walks forward and then he backtracks in his own footsteps to hide. Like that's Kubrick's way of telling the audience to play this forward and backwards. Is it? Or is it very important to you that people don't think you're insane for watching this movie transposed over the top of it, playing forwards and backwards? You might be crazy. But I do notice like a lot of the shots in this, they do explain how like color schemes and how especially Kubrick does this thing called like deep focus photography. Like a lot of the things in the screen are in focus, as generally you shoot things kind of like with a bokeh where like the actor's face is up front and everything behind it's kind of blurry, And they explain how Kubrick does like this deep focus photography. Like you can see pretty much everything. And they explain how his shooting style leads to people seeing a lot of stuff because there's so much to see in a shot. But that's it. That is room 237. Just wrapping up. They confused me because the credits for the movie play backwards. So when the credits started rolling down reversed, I was like, what exactly is going on? But yeah, that is room 237. It's currently playing on IFC on the AMC Plus. I put the link in the comments so it's easier to find. But otherwise, I'm sure you can Google it and find it. There's probably a version on YouTube or one of those, I think it's also on Pluto for free, maybe. I don't know. But it's a wild one. It makes you really think about movies, and it makes you also think about how many crazy people are out running around loose. But it also digs into the work of Kubrick. So if you're a fan of Kubrick the man and his collected works, I would recommend checking it out. If you're a Stanley head, give it a watch. But otherwise, yeah, it's important to me because it's all about the art of filmmaking. That not just all the work that goes into it, but since so many different types of artists are working on this one thing, that their messages and their thoughts can't help but get on screen one way or another. So that is room 237. I thank all of you who've popped in. Oh, hey, my friend Mikey's Moore dropped in right before I'm wrapping it up. Don, I have not seen this movie. And Misfits. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. I since it's a late Sunday night, I did this one in my pajamas. I'm wearing sweats and an oversized Misfits shirt, which is a joke. See, there's some Stanley Kubrick shit for you. It's an oversized Misfits shirt. Do you get it? Do you see what a level on? Oh, never mind. I'm an idiot. So the point is, thank you for joining me tonight. Mikey jumped in. Video Tasties was here. Patrick was here. Cal was here. Echo. Who else? Liv was here earlier. Liv Style Rewind. Mr. Bones was holding it down. I'd like to encourage you again, at the top of the chat, there is a link pinned for the Horror YouTuber of the Month. So go there and click that. That's Ginger Ninja's channel. Our friend Larry, the Horror Cat Dad, is nominated for Horror YouTuber of the Month for this month. So I'd like my boy to win it. So go there and put Larry or Horror Cat Dad in the comments. And subscribe to Ginger Ninja while you're at it. Jason's cool people. That's right. Nate Pat Master was here as well. So I think all of you who joined that big long list of folks I said, Mikey likes the color. Thank you, Walmart, Mikey. Can't go wrong, man. That's dope. It's got like little skulls and stuff, and that's pretty cool. So that's the bad thing about branding and marketing. Shirts that I spent my whole life wishing I could find, they're just now at Walmart. It's like, damn it. My whole life I was on search for cool horror movie shirts, and now I can just like grab one for $7 on the way to the checkout aisle. Mikey says sorry he's late. Oh, it's quite all right, Mikey. This was a weird one. We talked a lot about Kubrick's The Shining. I don't know, what do you think about The Shining, Mikey? I bet Mikey hates Kubrick's The Shining. He's always going contradictory to me, but you never can tell. Mikey might pull a wild card on me and be like, I love it. Mikey says, hell yeah, that shirt is awesome. Thank you, Mikey. You have great taste. Like I said, it's my pajama. And now he's laughing at me saying, I know that he'll always throw me a wild card. You never can tell. Be sure to check out my friend Mikey Morg's channel. Mikey's one of the hardest working men. Mikey and Gareth, they like inspire me to work harder at YouTube. Like those guys they work. And then our friend Patrick is here, is always just doing like the coolest interviews and stuff. Kal-El, Son of Superman. I mean, support Son of Superman. Give me a break. But mainly anything, support my friend the Horror Cat Dad at the top of the chat. The pinned link there. Go to Jason's channel and vote in the comments. The Horror Cat Dad. You can also vote for Marty Trash Picture Show because he is a friend of the channel. But what are you doing to my guy Larry if you're not voting for him? But I'm going to wrap it up. It's 2:53 a.m. That's pretty good. I said we'd be out of here by 3 a.m. We are. I like when I keep the train on time, right? That's the key. You got to keep the trains running, bro. Thank you for joining me for what I anticipate to be my least watched episode of all time due to the movie and the time I showed it. Mikey says I'm too kind. Mikey, it's true. You and Gareth, I respect your work ethic so much. That's you people inspire me. All my friends inspire me. That's part of the reason I love doing these shows is everybody in the chat, the folks who watch later on, everyone. It's all just good people. I've really been lucky to cultivate a cool group of folks who hang out and share their thoughts with me. I'm lucky that way. So good night, lucky people. I appreciate you all very much. I'll see you again for another one that'll probably be less alienating to most of the audience. But I will wish you green grass and high tides forever.